Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is, what does a nourishing Christmas look like for you? So what we want to do is just dig around a little bit about, as we're staring down the barrel of a December descent towards the big Christmas day, if that's your spiritual practice, what that can look like and what might get in the way of that, and being navigated by chaos and all of the things about how we can anchor ourselves so that we can hold our children and create the type of ritual and experience that we want to have, and also make sure we arrive at Christmas Day actually present and able to be in the experience with our children.
Yes, and that's a really key point, because so much about Christmas and the lead up to Christmas is all about doing and showing up and performing, and just like we're so in our heads and moving through time that we're either not fully feeling it or we're not actually there on Christmas Day.
Totally.
Right? So like starting now and getting conscious and intentional about what that period leading up to Christmas and Christmas Day can look like for you from a nourishing point of view is really what we want to do here.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe where it's good for us to start, Bridget, is that we're in Melbourne. So we've come out of a second long lockdown, and we find ourselves in this very fast, the world has opened up to us again. So we've gone like zero to hero, and every single person that I speak to is actually really struggling in this phase of reopening. So despite the fact that we are on a fast train to Christmas and the chaos and the things we would normally have got done, you know, there's more chaos and we haven't got any of those things done. It's just really making space for the fact that some years you are all over Christmas and you've pre-organized all of the things and everything is perfect. And then there's other years where life has different ideas and we have to learn how to navigate those winds and oceans and still find ourselves in that experience. And that's where, that's where I find myself this year, and also where I speak to people about, my gosh, I'm not organized. I'm not ready. Can everything please just stop? This is so fast, you know, and
because it's like, I keep going, how is it nearly December? How am I thinking about going and buying a Christmas tree? Like, it's just like, what happened? And it's because we just are not, like, I feel like the collective psyche is not ready yet. Like, we're still trying to adjust. And so I want this conversation to be permission for you, dear listener, to check in with yourself and notice where you leave yourself for the family tradition, the social, influences about how you should feel right now, or what your Christmas Day should look like, or how much you should appreciate it, or you should be doing with your children, like in all that stuff. Like, just take a pause on all of that to come back into you right now and where you find yourself, because it's like our nervous systems need deeper holding and care as we integrate the year that has been and get ready to bring the energy that we want to bring for ourselves and our families to this time.
Yeah, I just love that you said we need to increase holding and care.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
It's the first thing I'm saying to clients at the moment, because people are coming to me with stuff with their kids, and I'm like, how are you? Because if your nervous system is pinging, then that's what your kids are plugging into. So what can we do for you?
Yeah, 100%, right? Just really coming back to stripping it back to the basics of it's not what it looks like, it's what it feels like. And that for most of us, if we're the center pillar of our family, what it feels like is essentially the beacon of experience.
Yeah.
And I know you and I, Bridgie, talk often about what we're blueprinting with, what we're bathing in the soup of as we grow and develop, and how our children come to know Christmas in their bodies and in their minds, and how they feel about Christmas and what they themselves replicate as adults has a lot to do with how we enter this time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have this on a felt body sense too, I think, from our own lived experience, which we might actually lean into now. As I said to Julie, let's explore, like, for us, and I hope that you can too, listener, is to look at in your own childhood, like, what would be your best Christmas? Like, if you can take yourself back to a time in your early childhood, or, you know, even teens, what Christmas was the one that you just hold on to in your heart, or that lights you up, or that just feels like like the way that you think Christmas should feel? And so for me, I must have been about 10, and this is back before mobile phones. And so my dad, he used to do the aircraft in bushfires, and so he couldn't go anywhere because he was on call. He had to be at home to receive a phone call in case he had to go and help out. So that meant that we couldn't go to anyone's houses. We had to be home, and that was just unheard of because I had come from a massive family on both sides. So all of a sudden, we were forced into this pause, and it was delicious, because what it was a Christmas yes day. So my parents said, okay, we're going to be home. So what food do you want? You can choose anything. Like, what snacks do you want? What do you want to do? And I can still remember that my brother and I chose, because we had no sweet food in our house ever. My brother and I had just heard about this new Cadbury Top Deck that had just come out, and we wanted Cadbury Top Deck. And I can still remember it being in a bowl on the dining table, and us just feeling like, you know, all of our Christmases had come at once, because we were eating this Cadbury Top Deck, and we had sausage rolls, and it was just really nice. And I think it was also made so beautiful, now I understand this, because my mum wasn't stressed. Like, she was there, present. She wasn't trying to rush us somewhere, or, you know, make us like dress right or look right or behave right within the family dynamics. You know, she wasn't stressed and tired because she's been spending so long preparing. It was just simple. We went to the beach after that, and it was just, I think it's just the simplicity of it I just really loved, and the fact that we as children had so much choice, like more choice than I remember having around Christmas. So that's like my best memory of Christmas.
I just feel like I felt that as you were talking about it. But I just wanted to know, for your mum, who is so family centric and has such a large family who have a value on catching up at Christmas, how was she able to be present? Like, how did she wrestle with the fact that she's, in inverted commas, missing out? She's not with her family. She's isolated because of your dad. Like, how did she do that?
Well, I know now she says that she loved that because there wasn't so much expectation, and we could just we had permission. I think she kind of liked it that it gave her permission, because she couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't, like, the choice was beyond us. So for her, I think it was
for a break.
I think she was ready for a break, and I think it was the permission that she needed but couldn't give herself. I don't know that she would have just opted out. So instead, we have this scenario where we can't be a part of it. So I think actually she loved it. And she often says, you know, I just love to go away for Christmas, even now, because of the pressure still, right? Like, just the demands that we internalize that about, you know, who we need to invite, or the kinds of food we need to prepare, and all of that. Yeah. So I think because she rested so well into that day, it must have just been really safe and, like, nourishing for us. Just felt really spacious.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to her again about it. But yeah, that's just sticks out the most in my memory. I mean, of course, I've had beautiful Christmases going places and doing things. And I also really loved going out like to local pub on Christmas Eve. I think that might have been that same year. And just the really pared back Christmas as opposed to like all the people, all the places, all the elevations.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder also on a co-created dynamic level how much that was also great for your parents' relationship in terms of, I wonder if it comes at this perfectly dynamic time where maybe she needed to be rescued by your dad and he offered this fantastic out where she didn't have to, there was a good reason that her family could identify with. So she avoided conflict with them whilst getting her needs met, whilst being, potentially more connected to your dad. Like I wonder also about the co-creation of it.
Exactly. And I definitely think it was a time where they were really having to renegotiate the terms of their relationship. And like, it was a potentially challenging time. So how perfect then to be asked to really invest in that, like to really kind of like, let's center our family and make our immediate family memories here. Not be pulled in every other direction.
Gosh, haven't we all had the fantasy of, I just want to go away?
Totally.
As you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, me too. This fantasy, like, we'll just whisk ourselves off and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the truth is, I also think that comes with its challenges because then it is just us. Yeah.
And then you feel the potential guilt. But I was legit looking at like accommodation over Christmas recently because I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. There is a freedom in that, which I totally respect and can see would be beautiful. I know some families certainly do that. They always go to the same location, they just totally change their narrative on Christmas Day to what they've grown up with, or family conflict is too much. So they create their own little bubble and henceforth change in dynamic around Christmas. Like I totally respect that. I also think that's super bold and brave too.
It is. It can be. And it can definitely, like put, throw bombs in the family, especially if people are very emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how big celebration moments in our lives bring up big emotion, don't they?
So tell me about your best memory.
Well, it's actually converse to yours, which I think is completely perfect in this world of polarity. So my absolute best memory was my aunt, so my mum's sister. So my mum's one of four. My dad had a really disconnected, super cool family, like as in super emotionally cool family. So there was never really tight ties. There was never really like Christmases weren't like, he had this whole funny thing about celebrations. And so it was like, it was a non-event for my dad and his side of the family, really. But for my mum's side of the family, it was filled with all of the intense emotionality that comes with the converse experience. Like they're always like the polarity between my parents is incredible. So to every bit that he was cool, my mum's like super crazy fucking hot at Christmas. Yeah. So my best memory of that is we were at my aunt's and she just bought this huge property down in Gippsland on 19 Mile Beach, literally across from the beach. And they just built their dream home there. And I loved being there. Like 90 Mile Beach, if you're not around Victoria or Australia, it's just like this super open stretch of super straight, lush sand, squeaky sand dune beach with these wave oceans that you can surf and swim in and all of things. Like it's just one of the most beautiful coastlines. So I loved the wildishness of the ocean there, and you could hear the waves obviously right from her property. So it was like you're at the beach even if you're not there, and it was surrounded by bush. So you almost felt like you had this house in the middle of this bush. And it was always super hot. I feel like Christmas is now definitely our climate has changed.
I agree, because they were always hot.
Crazy hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like high 30s, mid 30s, like Christmas Day was always hot to the point where you were dreading turning on the oven to cook the roast. Whereas now it's almost like it's flipped and now they're like quite cool, which I kind of miss because I loved the hotness. Like we were always swimming. There was always water play. There was, anyway, I digress. So it was one such super hot summer day, and it was all like she kind of almost lives on a sand dune. So it was like this baked sun, bleached sand when it's hot, and you can hear the cicadas and the crickets, in the grassland, and it's all bushes around. And they'd set up the table outside, and it was my mum and her are they all there? They might have all been there. And her 3 siblings and all of their kids. And they all have, 2 to 3 kids each who were like 10 years older than me and my sister. And I think a couple of them had boyfriends. And because they're all a little bit crazy, they're loud and they're boisterous and they're crazy. And, particularly one of my mum's sisters was like super out there. And so she was always like crazy over the top, like max out at 10 with everything. So I just remember this such beautiful contrast between crazy, over the top, joyous, fun, loud table filled with food. My aunt wouldn't let you take a plate that wasn't piled like a mountain. Like it was ridiculous, filled with food, filled with, tinsel and hats and all of the ridiculousness, filled with laughter and alcohol and like just fun. I mean, super crazy, fun, long table that we all sat at. And then when I didn't want to be there, I could be in this bleached, cricket, sun-soaked, quiet land. I just remember the contrast between the two and being able to navigate myself, because she had this property of being able to go, I want to be in the fun. Now I want to be in the quiet. And now I want to come back to the fun. And I just remember that Christmas as I love, and sometimes I think that's what I'm trying to replicate in having 4 kids, is there's something that I just love about the chaos. I actually just really thoroughly love it.
Love the chaos, yeah.
Yeah. I love all the different people and the yelling and the difference of opinion and the fun and the laughter and the banter and the craziness and the people under your feet. And like, I love that, because our experience was so quiet and alone for so much of my life.
Yeah.
I love that chaos. So, and because we have such little families, my husband and I, who are all very kind of cool and quiet, we don't really have that experience that I recall as like my favorite. So I think at some point, my kids certainly bring a level of chaos, but I really look forward to them being adults, and that just gets to become bigger and, at some point probably more our thing, which I'm really looking forward to at some point. So what I loved about it was, as a child, having the fluidity to be on my own rhythm. Like there was nowhere I had to be. There was no times. There was no traveling. There was no rules. I could just flow in and out as I wanted, play with my own toys on my own, come back into chaos when I wanted to, go back into quiet, like just that rhythm. And I actually think that, now I'm saying it out loud, is what I crave and want as well. I want the chaos and the loudness, but I want to be able to flow into quiet, insular downtime and then come back into the joy and then flow back in, like just that in-breath, out-breath. That's my favorite way to live life. I
wonder how much that speaks to the fact that it's such a powerful and inspiring memory, because it was able to be so well integrated. Like it wasn't so chaotic that it's almost like a get me out of here, I can't handle the intensity. And it wasn't so mellow that it was boring. Like you actually got to move within those 2 spaces yourself. So it got to become your own creation.
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah. Yeah. So when I think about Christmas and what I want for my kids, I would rather not travel. I would rather not hold on to this preciousness of one day. I often looked at families who would spread their gatherings out over several days. So it was like a Christmas season rather than a Christmas day. Yeah. And I've always deeply appreciated that, to be able to have one day here and one day there and actually feel like it's quality time and we've got downtime. I like that. So this is our first year of doing that. Actually, it's been a lot of years of navigating both of our mums and their needs and desires to keep Christmas Day for them and their family, and their sense of preciousness and my sense of leaving them alone. And, I feel like there's been a lot for both of us to kind of navigate there. And it was only that my sister has a new partner and his family also hold Christmas Day preciously. And so now there's like more people to navigate and direct. And because of that, we've split it up. So we're now going to do Christmas Eve with my family. And then Christmas Day, both my sister and I go to our partners' families. But even that is hard because I'm sitting with, it means my mum's alone, and I take this level of responsibility because I know what that means to her. At the same time as I'm weighing it up going, okay, but this doesn't have to be my responsibility. This could open up doors to her being at other people's gatherings where she's really genuinely loved and wanted and involved. She could go and do, who knows, fill other top values of friends or charity or whatever it is. So it was me who delivered that news to her this year and said to her, look, you're more than welcome to flow in with us. My family ritual that I've never let go is that I take my family after we get up early, unwrap presents. We go to the beach and we always have a swim together. So we spend, 2 or 3 hours at the beach, just me and my little family. And that's been the best thing in the whole world. And I will never let that go. So that's been our ritual to kind of then tone down everybody's nervous system. So we're kind of ready to integrate into family. Anyway, so I've invited her along to that, but it's our first year of really splitting it up. One day Christmas Eve, one day Christmas Day. But I'm really looking forward to that because, good Lord, I've had enough of the now we're here, now we're there, now we're,
Yeah. And I think the kids will love that too because the kids don't want to be rushed either.
Yeah, I totally agree. But it's all these family pressures and we're always trying to navigate, aren't we?
Yeah.
What's your needs? What's my needs?
People happy, and do you keep people happy, or do you choose yourself and like what that dance looks like?
Yeah, exactly. What does that dance look like? And when you have multiple families, you're trying to navigate.
My husband comes from, his parents split, so he's got a really big story and like lots of negativity around Christmas because it was just the moment his parents split, then it was all about like, well, each parent needs to see us, so we just get shipped here and there. And like, so they just start playing with their toys and then someone's coming to pick them up. And so he has to constantly like expand those edges for himself at Christmas time and like recreate it from the way he wants it to be, not where it just felt like he was constantly being managed as a child.
Yeah, gosh, that's hard, isn't it? So what do you do then? So you've essentially got 2 families on his side and then your family. So it's like 3 families that you're trying to navigate.
Yeah, well, we do a big family thing with my mum's side because my mum's one of 12. So we do a big thing the week before with that whole big side. And then we do Christmas Day with my parents. And in the past, we've invited my husband's mum and stepdad to that, and they've come some years and some years not. And then we do his dad usually on Boxing Day, and we'll see his mum around Christmas, either on Christmas Day at my parents', or we'll see them sometime around because they live in the country. And that tends to work really well. I mean, his dad gets pretty annoyed that we don't prioritize his place all the time for Christmas Day. But I think ultimately it's just a time of year where you've got to continually come back to your own family, and like, his dad's 2 hours away nearly, and so I've always made the point when I've had little babies, I don't want to put them in the car for that long on Christmas Day, so we've kind of avoided the travel largely, and tend to do that on the days around it, which feels more possible in my body and like in my kind of brain. But yeah, I mean, we try to be pretty fluid. Like, we've also got my dad's dad, like we've got a big thing that happens there on Boxing Day, so it's just kind of like, where do we want to be this year?
Wow, it's such a lot, isn't it?
There's a lot. Like, usually there's kind of 3 days in a row. It's Christmas Day, Boxing Day, the day after often, but we just kind of sense the family, where's the family thermostat at in like for more, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, how interesting.
Just a brief pause of this week's podcast to let you know that if you would love to connect more deeply with me and conscious parenting, then please jump into Reimagining Motherhood community. You can find out more about that at bridgetwood.life.
And if you'd love to dive a little bit deeper with me, Honey Club is your place for femme relationship and embodiment practice. And you can find out more at julietenner.love. So where do you find yourself at the moment in terms of honouring the seasons of your energy and the way that Christmas might change or evolve? Where are you finding yourself at the moment?
I mean, I definitely feel like I have capacity for less this year, like than prior years when you and I have like hit the ground running with like the kids kind of advent, and we had every day planned, and like, now I'm just going to be scrambling to get like an advent calendar in time, like the one that my kids want. And So I feel a bit behind the eight ball there, but I'm really committed to choosing less, but going deeper.
Mm.
So like doing less things, but making them more meaningful as opposed to like ticking things off and just kind of skirting the surface.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's my intention, and that my work is more, I think, around like my acceptance of difference and my centering connection. And when I'm noticing if I'm getting stressed, how to kind of come back into what I want for my children, like what I want them to feel, and how do I want to feel in this time as well. Because I want to be able to feel the wonder and the enchantment of it. And I don't think as mothers we can do that if we're moving too fast.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, where can I pull back? Where do I want to? And what's going to feel really good for me and for everyone here?
Yeah. Gosh, totally. So what is the intention that you're carrying forwards for Christmas?
You know, I actually wrote this down. Let me see if I've got it. Where did I put it? I really want to connect to fun, right? And creativity. And I really want to be heart-centered. And so at this Christmas, it's going to, you know, sometimes it takes work, particularly at a COVID Christmas where there's like potentially more conflict. It can take work to get to that place. And so I'm allowing myself the space to do the processing that I need to do to come back to there. Because I'm not having fun or being creative if I'm not really in my heart. So those things to me feel really intertwined. And if I want my children, because I really, really love my children to feel like really secure and like loved unconditionally at this time, which means I've got to work on like internalized Christmas Scrooge stuff or triggers. And then I want them to feel really enchanted. So again, that comes back to me and my heart being heart-centered so that I can create enchantment. Because we're not really looking for enchantment if we're not really feeling, right?
Yeah.
Going through the motions.
Yeah.
So part of that looks like, you know, instead of getting a Christmas tree from where we would usually get one, which is fine and the kids love it, now I'm like, how can I make this even more meaningful? And so there's a place near us that also has like a dinosaur exhibit, and you can go digging for fossils, and like they kind of like do this nice hybrid of Christmas tree / dinosaur stuff, which my kids are all like super into. So then it can become this, you know, kicking off of this season in a way that's really aligned and feels fun for them, and that we can plug into and it be an experience together. And then really seek to kind of carry that energy more through to Christmas Day. So just picking little things, like not the big cram everything in, just a few things. Like I've, you know, ordered some like wooden decorations that we're going to decorate and paint and like hand to people in the community and things like that. And so just like slowing it down and making it meaningful is kind of what I'm wanting to do, so that I can be there with them in it, and create fun, you know?
Ah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
So that's kind of how I don't really know the exact how yet. That's going to come when I, you know, like go back and look at our kindness advent and like go like from a feeling sense, what do I actually want to do of this list? Because there's so much that we can do to choose from, like what feels really good right now.
Yeah.
When I read that, does my heart like come alive in that?
Yeah.
I just feel like a thing. You know?
I'm really looking forward to doing that as well. That's my plan also, to go back through the list and just pick the few things that feel manageable and inspirational.
Yeah.
It's doing that mix of manageable.
What's your intention?
Well, to be honest with you, it's my husband's 50th next weekend, which I almost just have like stopped life post then. I'm like, I can't eat that. I will talk to you after the 50th. It's kind of where my head got to. I'm like in organizational fatigue.
Yeah.
So To be honest with you, it's a very, very different entry into Christmas, because normally it would be, the biggest thing would be December and the Advent and the tree and the focus on kids. Whereas this year, the focus is on Nick and his 50th and being with his family. So it's a very, very different navigation in towards Christmas, and he's having time off so he can do that. So it's, what are we creating? What are we doing as a family for that couple of weeks, which is incredibly different to any other years. This actually feels super weird and different for me this year, because we're still trying to, as you say, reconcile the year.
Yeah.
We're still trying to grapple, Nick and I are both still trying to grapple with coming out of lockdown and just the intensity of what that means for our kids, social lives and our social lives, and also their extracurriculars. Like, it just, man, we've just hit the ground running. So we're still finding ourselves kind of caught up in the scramble of trying to work out our rhythm with Family Inc. again, which, you get into a rhythm and then we stopped it and we lost the rhythm. And now it's like life is faster than us at the moment. So we're both trying to find our way there. At the same time as I feel like I've got this looming next week, trying to organize 10 people for 4 days, just for everything. That's what I'm doing. Has just felt really big, and to make it really memorable and special for my husband. And it's all a surprise and a secret, which, it feels really big for me to hold in my body and to navigate my way through. So to be honest with you, it's such a weird space for me to be going, hang on, Christmas, and I haven't even thought about presents, and I can't even start an Advent. Like, I can't even until we're back.
Just do the 12 days of Christmas then,
That's such a great idea. That's what I should do, the 12 days of Christmas. Oh, Bridgie, that's perfect. That saved me, actually. That feels so good in my body. That's an excellent idea. That's what I'll do. So I just was kind of like, man, this is like the opposite of the perfect Christmas. But also, I'm not working during December. So I've taken December off, or I've planned my year to have December off, which again, I've never done. So, and I did that by knowing my nervous system would be at a point where it would need it. So I'd kind of put that in to go, okay, there's all this craziness, and then you just get to come down. And I would actually really like to enter Christmas from the come down place, not the come up place.
Nice. That sounds really powerful.
Yeah. And I think normally I'm like super psyched.
And to also enter it from that place of like feeling the joy and satisfaction of like what you created for Nick.
Yeah, I hope so.
In the moment, it feels like so much to hold and organize, but then when you're seeing it come to life, there'll be something that will carry you, into Christmas.
Yeah, I really hope so. So I'm just really wanting to deeply sink into each of my children, because I do feel like this year, just with life, lockdown, homeschool, additional needs, appointments, like I haven't felt like I've really sunk into my children. I just feel like we've been managing.
Yeah.
Which I think is the case for a lot of people in lockdown, because gee whiz, it's brutal. And then coming out of lockdown is brutal, and there's all this social anxiety, and I've just found this year really intense. So I kind of feel like my ride into Christmas, I just really want to have that thumbprint, but when you feel like you've got the pulse on your child.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
that feeling?
You can actually feel them, like, again, like, well, that's where you're at and that's who you are. And
yeah.
We're back in like this nice sync again.
Yeah, that's actually my intention. Thank you for putting words to it. Perhaps in sync is the right word, or the pulse. So I just really want to have the pulse on my kids as I enter this, and we change what Christmas looks like this year. And I want to enjoy that. But I'm only going to enjoy that if I have the pulse on them, I think. Because or else I'm trying to be too perfect, and I'm just not. And the more I try to be perfect, the harder my life gets.
Also, too perfect can often be kind of disconnected, because if you're so attached to the perfect, you're not actually in the experience or in feeling the other person's receptivity of the experience, because, like, you're so oriented towards the perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, perfection is a cross we nail ourselves to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just really like to sink into each other and be like, we're here, we're on our land, we've all got through this year, and we've got each other. Like, just that's how I want to enter that Christmas. and just have it be much slower and much less perfect, like way less effort to what I would normally put into it, and really sinking back into, well, I guess it's more like your Christmas, the simplicity of just feeling it.
And leaning back into appreciating like what is.
Yeah. And the year. Like I would just love to sit in gratitude for what all of us, and I say this to our listeners too, for what all of us have processed this year.
Yeah.
Like holy moly. Everyone I speak to, regardless of where you stand on any viewpoint, everybody has had a super tough year.
That's true. There's no one who kind of gets out of all this unscathed. Right?
No. And I just think that's the one uniting humanity experience. We've all had our sludge dredged up.
Yeah.
We've all struggled. We've all had to balance so much. And I think there also needs to be that time where we just kind of pat ourselves on the back, or we just see ourselves in the struggle and the immensity of the year, because it has been.
Yeah.
And we just kind of say cheers to ourselves.
Cheers for showing up and navigating it and, you know, being messy and coming out the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. So what beliefs do I want my kids to hold for Christmas that they can navigate themselves between chaos and quiet? And that hopefully that's our rhythm this year. What about you?
That's beautiful. What I want them to hold, I want them to, as I feel like my oldest is going to soon come out of the, he'll soon come out of the wonder of Santa and that. What I really want for them to be held in and hold is wonder and appreciation for all of the ways that people love them. Yeah.
Appreciation for all of the ways people love them. And wonder, aren't intentions just some of the most nourishing things for your heart and soul?
Yeah.
I just love hearing them. You know, when it's really that crystal, you know it's true for someone because it like you feel it in your body. It just feels like nourishing chicken soup. So beautiful.
Because I think too, sometimes too we miss love. Like we don't see or feel love when love's given often. If it's like the wrong kind of love for us. But I think Christmas is an offering for us to expand how we feel love.
It's super beautiful. Yeah.
And so part of how I'm going to do that, and I invite our listeners to do this too, is actually to kind of come up with some of these words that represent like what your North Star is in terms of like the feelings that you want to hold or the beliefs that you want your children to carry, and actually kind of draw it as a star with each kind of word or feeling intention mapped on a corner of that star, and put it somewhere really obvious for you where you're going to constantly look at it, so that when you walk past the fridge or past your bathroom mirror, you can ask yourself, is what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about right now orienting me towards these? And if it's not, come back to these. Because it's just those little reminders that help us to stay connected to what our bigger desires are. And that's really important the way the world is now, which it's just so loud. But we need to come back and control our controllables, which is our intentions and how we perceive our world and the people around us.
Yeah, totally. And can people connect with our Advent calendar at the moment?
They can. Just check it out. You can find a link to it on our website, or check out the link in our socials. You'll also be able to just download it there.
So it's totally free, just a downloadable now for you to be able to navigate, move through a list of really conscious ways to look at an Advent as a time and a season of sinking into your values and the values you wish to instill for your children. So definitely check it out at nourishingthemother.com.au or Nourishing the Mother on Instagram and Facebook.
And to connect with you, Jules,
is julietanner.love, and to connect with you, Bridge,
it's bridgetwood.life. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.